it's Jose. Finally, we've come to the end of this season. This is the first part of the behind the scenes video for season 3. 8 videos make the list for this season. The backspine, the furnace, the hatchet, the game room, the bathtub, the crucifix, the freezer room, and the carousel. Let's begin with the backspine trap. The reason I call it backspine trap instead of spine trap is because I wanted it to have a longer title. That's the only reason. This trap was my very first idea, before air fan trap. But when I got the idea for the air fan trap, I thought that was a much better trap to do first. And besides, I still didn't have the complete version for the backspine. As you know from air fan trap, this takes place in an old factory. There you can see a weird type of production that went on in this room, and all those boxes filled with God knows what. As you can see, there's a small door on the floor that is supposed to be a door the factory used to bring up equipment from the basement using the wheel. And that explains why the wheel is there. When I first came up with this idea, the original trap was supposed to be of this guy passing his arms through a set of hot irons, and on the other side a set of rings to pull and stop the timer on the wheel. Then I decided to do this trap as the sequel to Air Fan, but in a different version. The Danny you see in this trap is the exact same one I used in the first one. The only thing I did was fix his face a little and clean him up. Just in case you're wondering, there's 2 timers in the machine because one starts when the lights go on and Richard plays the tape. And as soon as the first timer is up, the second one begins starting the machine. I had a little trouble pulling the string because it kept coming out of the wheel, but after a few tries everything went well. Here's the entire video already edited. I think my favorite part about doing these videos is to edit them, and what I hate the most is shooting them. But after long hours of work, the final product is a reward of satisfaction. Let's move on to the furnace. This set was built first than the hatchet one, but the hatchet was shot first. And that's because I didn't want to do the furnace. I had this set in my garage for a while, and after I got done with the hatchet, I brought it up to my room and started production on it. I had a lot of fun shooting this trap because I love playing with fire, but as some people say, if you play with fire you're gonna get burned, and that's what almost happened to me. I took a lot of risks shooting this trap, but I had it all under control with a water sprayer, which I used as soon as things started to get ugly. After I was finished, the furnace was a completely different one from the one I started with, so I had to throw it out. Obi's legs ended up melting, so I used the aluminum body I used in the flammable jelly for close-ups of the legs burning. Clay and fire did not mix, everyone. Now the hatchet trap. First of all, let me tell you a little story of how I got the idea for the glass vials filling with blood. When one of my family members was in the hospital, I witnessed the amount of blood vials the nurses took from the patient. I was like, what the hell do they need so much blood for? Then because I had nothing to do, I came out with this trap idea of a person filling vials with blood. Then I added this idea with the hatchet descending from the ceiling idea. My first plan was that when the hatchet fell, it will penetrate the person from the back and coming out from the front, spraying Danny with blood. But when I was building the set, I decided that slicing a person in half was a much disturbing way to impress you. I added the air fans as a final tribute to this trilogy. The video begins with the air fan and ends with it. A very important point of this trilogy is that Danny had to save Jason and Richard for the final game. The rest of the story will be explained someday, along with many answers. Blurry. Sorry about this, but I had some awful problems when I finished editing this trap, and everything I was doing just kept making the quality worse. I love the look of this set. I don't know why, but for some reason it seems special to me. But my favorite set is the Mausoleum, and from my original traps, the Hatchet. I had to make a few tricks to make this trap work, because as you can see, the scale is in a tight space. I know I mentioned this already, but some people are still asking what I use for blood. I use Kool-Aid powder, red and black paint, and water, but I use more powder than water. I used a blue light filter to help with the blue effect, but that's one of the reasons the video was so blurry, and I learned from my mistake. Okay everyone, this is the end of the first part of the video. Please continue with part 2.